Hello, good evening. Welcome to Iron Port. Iron Port is brought to you by Ghana Revenue Authority, GOL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner is the BNFT. And if you want an insight to what will happen here this evening, you need to grab a copy of the Thursday edition of the BNFT newspaper to abreast yourself with all you missed on this show. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. I'm stepping in for your regular host, Kennedy Mona. Remember, you can also join us live via all our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are streaming live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and at the port of Tema. And on YouTube, we're streaming live at Iron Port. Remember, you also get the opportunity to interact with us, and our dedicated WhatsApp line is 053-803-7353. We will also open the phone lines in the course of the show for you to make your contributions towards the discussion. So grab your phones and let's get interactive. I'll introduce my guest who will delve deep into today's topic after this break. Please stay.
Energy brings you quality choices with GOL Super XP, available in many GOL stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a GOL station today and energize your ride with GOL Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. GOL Super XP, Wufilia, huh? Wubefeel. GOL, good energy. Yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back to Iron Port. Remember, the show is powered by GPHA. Of course, during the week, a lot has happened at the port and in the maritime industry. Here's what you missed. A befitting send-off ceremony was held on Wednesday, January 8, to honor the outgoing Tema Port Fire and Safety Manager, Deputy Chief Fire Officer, DCFO Reverend Alfred Okine, who until his retirement served the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority for a remarkable 39 years. The colorful parade was attended by staff and management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, members of the Ghana National Fire Service, and key stakeholders within the port community who gathered to celebrate his exemplary career. DCFO Reverend Alfred Okine began his career in 1985 as an office assistant in the Port Operations Department before transitioning to the Port Fire Service in 1989 as a recruit fireman. His commitment earned him the Best Worker Award in 1992, and he rose through the ranks after the merger of the Fire Service and Safety sections in 1996 to become a principal fire and safety officer, briefly serving as a traffic officer at the Golden Jubilee Terminal in 2013. He returned that same year as deputy fire and safety manager, and in 2024 he assumed the role of fire and safety manager, culminating in a legacy as the department's longest serving member. He took over from Edward Heyman in July last year. The director of Port Tema, Sandro Puku, urged all workers at the fire and safety section to emulate the example set by the outgoing boss.
And we want to encourage all the new officers or the new recruits in the fire and safety department. As you read his history, let it inspire you to do better, because he came in as an office assistant and now he's leaving as the fire and safety manager. Everything is possible. So my advice to you, work hard. The success will come when your hard work is acknowledged. And the promotion will also come when your hard work is acknowledged. So on this note, I'll say, Reverend Okine, thank you once again. You are leaving a big hole, but I know that our dear lady Cynthia is well equipped to stand in your shoes and to move this department forward.
She added, occupational health and safety will continue to be a major focus of management at the Port of Tema in the new year. Reflecting on his career, Reverend Okine expressed gratitude for the support he received from GPHA and his colleagues throughout his journey.
We have shared so many experiences and difficulties as we journeyed through this career, and I will really miss working with each and every one of you. I wish to admit that I am standing here today because of your influential support you offered me throughout these years.
He made a passionate appeal to management to scale up the workforce of the department in order for them to take up emerging responsibilities.
Let me take this opportunity once again to make special appeal to management to consider the recommendations I made for the upgrade of some of the staff who have degrees and masters in occupational health, safety and environment, as well as those with professional certificates in line with the service institutions of fire engineers. This, I believe, will boost their confidence and challenge them to work more harder.
ACFO Cynthia Ajaklo has now assumed the office of Fire and Safety Manager at the Port of Tema. And those were some happenings at the port this week. Time now to abreast ourselves with happenings on the international world.
China's state-owned COSCO Shipping Holdings, along with 130 other Chinese companies, has been added to the U.S. Department of Defense blacklist for alleged ties to China's military, aiming to curb military modernization efforts. This move, which follows similar past sanctions, has led to stock drops for listed companies, including a 4.92% dip for COSCO, while COSCO denies the allegations and vows to continue operations uninterrupted. Amid this, President-elect Trump's return raises fears of heightened tariffs and trade tensions, potentially driving up shipping costs and reducing U.S. consumer spending by billions annually. Recent developments indicate increased risk to Russian military cargoes at sea, highlighted by the December 23 sinking of the Ursa Major near the Straits of Gibraltar. With its war effort reliant on foreign arms shipment, Russia sources artillery and drones from North Korea and Iran via sea routes, vital for sustaining frontline operations. Ukraine, seeking to disrupt these supplies, has demonstrated capability in maritime strikes, such as the November 6 drone attacks in the Caspian Sea, potentially escalating risk to Russian military logistics at sea.
So Iron Port is always concerned about educating you on some of the terms used at the port. Today, the phrase of the day is port tariffs. Port tariffs.
Port tariffs are charges applied for the use of port facilities and services. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, these charges can be categorized as follows. 1. Port dues refer to charges applied either on the ship or on the cargo or both for the general use of the port without any specific service being specified. 2. Specific port tariffs are charges applied for the performance of a specific port service. Collectively, these charges are often referred to as port charges, encompassing both port dues and specific port tariffs.
And on our safety and health tips today, we are reminding you of why you need to always keep a correct posture. Always.
Keeping a correct posture. Maintaining your body in a neutral posture is important to minimize the stress placed on your body, even if you work at a desk. You need to make sure you have a good posture to avoid back problems, neck pain, and even carpal tunnel. Of course, if you do have to lift something, always size up the load. Keep your back straight and lift with your legs.
This evening, we are exploring the current state and future prospects of trade facilitation and cross-border trade in Ghana and West Africa, with a particular focus on the role of women entrepreneurs in small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, the focus is on how women are navigating the challenges and opportunities in the trade ecosystem, the impact of regional trade agreements, including the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the critical support needed to empower women in the business sector. Luckily for me, in the studio, I have some two fine brains who will help me discuss this issue because they are well vexed in that topic. Na Denswa Aite is a chairperson, Trade and Gender Subcommittee of the National Trade Facilitation Committee, and she's also the Vice President, Maritime Chapter of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, Ghana. Good to see you. Na Dodi Sedu is on my other side. He's the CEO of Africa Trade Academy. Grateful to have you. Great. So as they always say, it's good to start with ladies. Ladies first, right? So that is what I want us to understand: the infrastructural, logistical, and regulatory hurdles in trade across West African borders? What really are the challenges we face right now?
Good evening to your cherished listeners. Well, when you are talking about infrastructural challenges, cross-border trade, as we have it here in Ghana and in the West African coast, can be divided into two: formal and informal. And I'm sure we'll come to that later. So we have those who have registered their business and they are following regulations, following procedures, and they are compliant. We have those in the informal who cross the border daily to go and sell and come back. We call they are the informal people. They are not registered.
Okay.
They do not follow any format. They are neither people who pay attention to regulations, or are they even aware of such regulations. But these two face some challenges. Okay. And you mentioned some infrastructure. When you go to the border or the borders of Ghana, let's take Aflao to Togo, Elubo for Côte d'Ivoire, and Paga to Burkina Faso, and other entry points using the land borders. They face infrastructure challenges because, first of all, they do not have what it takes. When you go to the borders, we are talking of, for example, restrooms that, as women, they can use. We are talking about well-coordinated warehouses that they can use. We are talking about safety and security. How are the borders lit up? I mean, do they have lights all over the place? Is it a safe and conducive place when you go, or you are coming, or you are traveling, and it's late and you have to stop? Is it safe? Access to markets, alternative ones. Sometimes they tend to use other routes that we say they are not legitimate or something. But is that place safe? How safe is it for a woman carrying money on her, traveling and reaching the border? We talk about not only their safety, but they are not sometimes even aware of the procedures at the border. So there are so many things that mute against them, or that move against cross-border traders when you are talking about procedures at the border. And sometimes, but I'm happy to say that there's an improvement, and we are hoping for better things and better times, because it used to be very difficult for them to just cross the border by even doing documents, filling in their documentation. That was a problem, that was a challenge. But we believe that with education and talking to both sides, border agencies and then the cross-border traders, they will begin to understand each other in the business. But these are some of the infrastructural challenges that they do face at the border.
Dodi Seidu, definitely we know that there's been some measures throughout the period, even though there's more to be done. How are these measures, facilitating or actually transforming cross-border trade?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. So like you said, there's been a lot of initiatives, some dating back as long as, for example, regional trade and continental trade in ECOWAS has been in existence. So, for example, in recent times, we've seen some level of infrastructure development, the building of joint border posts, for example, between Ghana and Togo, the Noipe-Akanu border, for example, which is supposed to reduce the level of transaction cost otherwise traders would have faced. through infrastructural development. There's been improvements in development of markets, and not just markets at the border, but markets in country, because the way cross-border trade is not just what happens at the border, like Madam said, but there are aspects of trade that happens in country. So we have markets in Ghana where they do B2B, like the brick bulk. So if it's plantains, if it's fish, salt, whatever, people come from other countries to buy them and cross the border, or people come from other regions in Ghana, buy them to cross the border. So some of those market infrastructure, like if you take Kejitia, Tema market, for example, these are markets that deal in such kind of goods. And so the redevelopment of these markets can enhance or has enhanced trade facilitation. However, we need to see both activity at the border as well as in country. So the issue of warehousing, for example, and to note that a lot of the products sold are food-based products or food products. The lack of warehousing or appropriate means of storage plus delays in crossing the border affects the quality of the product. So then if it's a perishable and within a day or two it's not sold, it's not quality to sell again, and neither can you even dispose it as a trader. So those are some of the things. But the measures we've seen so far, apart from the logistical ones or the infrastructure that I've mentioned, has been in the area of the trade rules. And though the trade rules have tended to provide and suggest, reducing the level of red tape, the level of processing, inspections, and things like that, because the products, some of them, used to cross the border, they are supposed to be low-value products, which is, having a threshold of about, let's say, between $500 to $2,000 of products that is not supposed to take too much time to either inspect or clear. Okay. However, it takes a lot of time for them to go through the process. Some alluding to the fact that some of the traders don't know the process, or on the other side, the officers, in terms of the border officials, may want to, in the name of doing a thorough work, end up, delaying and crossing the border. So, though we've seen improvements in the regulations and at the border, we haven't seen their actual implementation that puts in focus the role and importance of this group of people. So, SMEs, small-scale cross-border traders, women in cross-border trade are very critical to our own survival. Don't forget, these are the women who are going as far as Burkina Faso to bring us tomatoes, to bring us onions. If they are not able to go and get those products to bring to us in time and at a reasonable cost, all of us, including you and I in this studio,
definitely
get to pay. And therefore, we need to begin to conscientize the minds of anybody responsible, including police officials who are on highways conducting snap checks, conducting security checks, to have this in mind, that these are the group of people, based on reasonable suspicion and reasonable, assessment, you should let them go, because they need to get back home to their families and need to get the products to all of us to consume.
In terms of simplifying and harmonizing these trade procedures, what would you say is the role of government?
Well, in terms of government is the principal negotiator. Government is a principal representative of all of us at the international negotiation table. So governments need to, with what has been done already with Madam Nadine Swa having become the chair of the National Subcommittee on Gender at the NTFC, to advocate or provide to the government the necessary information the government needs to understand the need for simplification of process. Because if we as traders or as individuals, stakeholders, we don't have a voice at the negotiation table. So we need to, bring these issues to the Ministry of Trade, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and any other agency, Immigration, Interior, to be able to, put this forward at the negotiation table, whether at the ECOWAS level or at the continental level with the AFCFTA.
Now, we've discussed the challenges, but are there opportunities as well in West Africa, and especially positioning Ghana as a hub?
I think there are quite a number of opportunities for our women. For example, with the African Continental Free Trade that is in, there are so many opportunities for our women traders or for SMEs in general, not just the women, but for men and women as well. It brings in a lot. When you look at the African Continental Free Trade, it's come out specifically on women and has provided right now a protocol for both women and the youth, which allows them, in fact, if you get the protocol, it spells out certain things that they can be involved in, like new markets they can access, facilities that they can access, financial facilities. Also, it gives them a level of protection. But opening markets for them within the region, even if you take the ECOWAS sub-region, you realize that if they can trade smoothly, procedures have been simplified and harmonized, they can trade very easily with their other counterparts across the border. I recall a meeting that we held at the border not too long ago, just this November, and we met with the cross-border traders, the women in particular. And we're talking about some of the things that they can do, because as you know, trade facilitation has brought a lot of opportunities, but it is not gender sensitive, it's very neutral. However, there's a need for us to know what it provides that can benefit the women in particular. And the Continental Free Trade Area, the agreement, and the WTO agreement, these two give a wide range of opportunities for women in particular to address some of their needs. So as I said, there are opportunities for them well spelled out. The market has been expanded. They can now move very easily. The threshold has been built today. We know that we have a simplified trade regime where, I mean, if you have just about $3,000 worth of goods, you pass through easily. But how do they know this? They've provided an area where they can be trained, create awareness. And for us at the NTFC level, the Trade and Gender Committee brings on board the opportunity to have training for them, to expose them to some of the things that the protocol on youth and women and youth brings for them. What are the advantages for them? How can they access some of the things mentioned in the protocol that can benefit their businesses? There are so many things. And fortunately, e-payment, we know about the PAPs, the Pan-African payment, so now they don't have to carry money on them. They can easily access money from the banks, you know. So there are a wide range of things that with the African Continental Free Trade and also the Trade Facilitation Agreement. For example, before coming out with any rule or anything within the border agencies, like customs coming out with regulations, fees and charges, they're supposed to inform the traders, consult with them, and tell them, we want to bring this particular rules. And then if those rules will affect their trading transactions, the women are able to comment, or traders in general must be able to comment and say that this will not be good for us. It will affect our business. Can you delay it, or can it be implemented in another way? You know, the consultation, the interactions. It behoves on the agency that is bringing out these rules and regulations to interact, to consult the traders and discuss with them what they are bringing, and then take on board the traders' comments. The protocol on youth, I think, the protocol for women that the African Continental Free Trade is very wide. It makes them competitive. And it one of the strong points is to make them to be able to export, and add value to it, and then also be part of the regional value chains. And if things are good, the global value chains, they can be a part of it. So I think that with the African Continental Free Trade, with the Trade Facilitation Agreement, WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, women have quite a number of opportunities that they can utilize.
We'll delve more into women and SMEs. I'm very particular and also want to know about what regional communities, I'm happy she mentioned ECOWAS, what they can do to actually help, especially SMEs, to take advantage of cross-border trade. Mr. Dodi.
Communities are a creation of individual countries that belong to a regional community. So there are 8 recognized of such communities in Africa. In our region, we have the Economic Community of West African States. Now, this particular creation has created a market for close to about 400 million people. Our region, in terms of number of people, is almost equivalent to that of Europe in terms of number of people. So, except maybe for GDP and purchasing power, but in terms of consumers, it's a relatively big region. So SMEs have the opportunity now to access the ECOWAS regional market. And I'm very happy that you mentioned it because many SMEs, and especially in our Ghanaian context, the ones who want to do trade often think about trading with the West, trading with Europe, trading with the US, and trading with maybe the UK and others. Whereas there is regional market. And if you look at Ghana Export Promotion Authority data, West Africa is our largest regional market. Our neighbors are our largest regional market for goods made in Ghana. So in terms of SMEs, it is a good market to consider. Also because regulatory-wise, it is relatively relaxed compared to some of the advanced countries' markets. However, it is regulatory-wise opaque.
Okay.
So which means that often regulations in ECOWAS countries are varied. They are different, and you wouldn't know them mostly in advance. If, for example, you want to export to the EU, it's much more easier to visit a website and get every information. But let's say you want to export to Nigeria, you want to export to Cote d'Ivoire, for example, language barriers and things like that. But yet still, it's an opportunity. So SMEs can consider the ECOWAS market strongly. Thirdly, it's also a region with close proximity in terms of travel distance, and you can undertake exploratory journeys as a business. If you have the resource to do that, you can travel, you can participate in fairs, trade fairs and exhibitions to learn about the market opportunities. So by creating a regional market, it is also okay. The fourth thing about the ECOWAS regional market is that relatively we have, within the African context, the longest number of days when it comes to free movement of people. Even though we have free movement of people subject to valid travel documents, vaccination card, and all the conditions, it is still an opportunity because in other parts of Africa, people don't get to travel to their neighbors for more than 90 days as we do. So it's an opportunity to explore this market. We have, and we also have a very varied region in terms of size of economies. We have countries like, let's say, Gambia, which could be less than 2 million people, and you have Nigeria, which is about, the largest in the region. Then we have also countries like Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Nigeria, which are in the middle income status, and others which are in, the least developing country status. Of course, these are economic indicators that can motivate or enhance purchasing power. But I'm just trying to highlight the point that it's a very diverse but huge region. The markets are open. If you are doing legitimate business and you can understand the terrain, you will be able to do well as an SME. Of course, as a woman, small-scale cross-border trader who may not have undertaking your business systematically. Maybe you're just selling your products to survive, and then you hear that there's an opportunity across the border. That is where you may need to understand more than the goods you sell, to know that you need this document, you need to cross the border right, and you need to be able to engage appropriately with border officials.
Well, what would you say about border security? Because in terms of transiting goods across border security plays a key role. I mean, where are we, and what are the gaps, if there are?
Well, where are we? We are also at the same time in a relatively fragmented region now. Recently, some of our neighbors in the Sahel decided not to be part of ECOWAS. But technically, they are still part of ECOWAS because the travel arrangements still exist. Okay. Goods and services legitimately sold or bought from them can be traded. However, yes, some of the incidents of terrorism and insurgency has created some level of instability, but it still does not affect us too much. Most part of the region is largely accessible to citizens of ECOWAS. In fact, there's a saying now that it's not more an ECOWAS of countries, it's an ECOWAS of people. So we're moving from individual country members to having a regional mindset that you can travel along across the region. Certainly, it is not. The region has not reached the integration that the citizens would have expected. For example, you'd have expected that you don't need to do 90 days if you travel, or maybe with your Ghana card, because the Ghana card that we have in Ghana is actually something that has been done regionally. Somebody from Benin, Togo, they all have like their national ID card. So technically with that card or with their card, they should be able to travel. However, mostly for people who are not border residents, you need a valid passport to be able to go very far. But otherwise, just around the border with your Ghana card is fine. So border security is something that can be improved and needs to be improved. And I think the next stage of our integration would be to actually remove, if we can, or reduce the presence at the frontiers, so that the physical region now becomes the borders of Niger, Cameroon, Niger with Cameroon, and then maybe the other side with Mauritania. But until then, it's still a very fragmented. Okay,
now let's talk about women in SMEs, and I said that we're going to talk more about it. What challenges do women face in West Africa, in Ghana, and what support now do you think that they need?
Thank you. Women in SMEs and women-led SMEs, they do have their challenges. And we can talk about their access to financing, their access to information, their access, lack of knowledge on procedures, lack of knowledge on even agreements that do benefit them. They are, if we say an SME, does he or she, especially the women, do they have the courage to even approach customs officials to ask for what are the procedures? I always like to give an example. At a meeting a workshop, I should say, and at this workshop it was done with the assistance of the World Customs Organization and Ghana Customs Gender Unit and the Trade and Gender Subcommittee. And the women expressed their need to be confident in approaching even customs officials so that they can learn or know or understand what they are expected to do. So you can see that they lack expertise, and then they have what we call time constraints on them. Women SMEs do have these constraints, especially time. So if you delay a woman at the border, you've caused her a lot of problems. Why? Because for a woman who is also a family, a mother at home, a caregiver, there's a lot that she has to do. So she's not the one that you can waste her time. Time is precious for her. And unnecessary delays cost her a lot. She has to be at home to see to the children. We call it unpaid work. I mean, taking care of the family is unpaid work.
True.
But compared to a man, the man can do his work without any consideration for, yes. So time constraints, access to finance, loans, lack of knowledge, even within, what to do. If most of them cannot trade more than what they have, So how should I say it? There's a need for these women, if you are talking about solutions, to be made aware of some solutions that can help them. How do we create financial opportunities for them? How do we make them, how do we let them account for the time that they are using that is not usually recognized? SMEs do contribute a lot, and we say that they are the backbones of the African economy. For example, in Ghana here, our small and medium-scale entrepreneurs are actually the backbone. If you go to Mokola, you see these women, they are the ones going and coming and moving, and they create jobs. So their activities do impact on the economy.
True.
Yeah, the activities do impact on the economy of Ghana and in West Africa and in Africa. We say that 70% of all of SMEs are women.
Yeah.
So there's a need to tackle some of the challenges that they go through, the SMEs. Being able to go for a loan with very little interest that they can work with and quickly pay. Because when the interest is very high, they find it very difficult to work and to recoup and then pay back.
Yeah.
So it is very important that as institutions, especially banks, and I know that some time ago, banks were very ready to give SMEs loans. But what is the interest? It's the interest we are talking about that affects the repayments. Otherwise, the person is working. Then information on anything that comes out. How quickly can they get that information to work with if it's going to impact on their trade transactions? How easily do they get it? And how can they be part of value chains? Not even global, not even the regional, but even within the country. So what we are trying to do, again, Dodi mentioned the Trade and Gender Subcommittee, is to sensitize them and create opportunities for them, try and educate them on some of the things that they can do, as in letting them understand how they can get loans, even talking on their behalf to banks and how they can consider them, and in granting them loans and how well they can utilize these loans to educate them on how to manage their finances, bookkeeping here and there, so that they know what they are doing. Women SMEs have come a long way in Ghana, and they are into everything now. Spices, textiles, skin products, cosmetics, so you can see that there's a lot of improvement. Most SMEs are also registered, so their contribution to the economy is noticeable.
Yeah.
You can notice that. They are not in the informal sector too much, but you can know that they are contributing to the economy, no matter how small. And they tend to give jobs, employment, because as they work with people. Those in the soap industry, they work with people. Those in the skin products industry, they work with a lot of people. So they create employment. Our SMEs, I think what we want to say that we should add value to it so that they can sell across the border. Right now, they are doing well in Ghana's economy, but how to access the markets and how to ship these products. It's not easy when it comes to shipments, either by air or by sea. How would they do it? Would they do it by consolidating, not one person going for a container, but maybe 3 or 4 people consolidating their cargo and one container and shipping them to a particular destination, and maybe to 2 or 3 buyers outside. These are some of the things we need to bring their attention to and teach them how to do it. And I think we have institutions that are well versed in that, in either through air freighting or through sea by sea. And we can see that if we open opportunities for them and you explain it to them and you teach them how to go by it, they do take advantage of this, and it goes a long way to help them. The SMEs bring down poverty.
Okay.
Yes. Sure. Yes.
And 2 things I pick from all that you've said. You spoke about expertise, and that would mean mentorship and all of that. Then you talked about how they can start exporting or doing their business across borders, and that comes with the networking bit. I want to find out what's the critical role of networking, mentorship, where you want to talk about capacity building initiatives in all of this.
They are very important. Networking is very important. Mentorship is very important. Capacity building is very important. We need to build the capacity of these SMEs. Apart from creating sensitization, training them, yes, we need to ensure that they are well versed in what they are doing, no matter what their product is, and how they can network with others, first of all, amongst themselves, share information, share some of the practices that they have learned amongst themselves. And then the program of mentorship, getting somebody to mentor them, the young ones coming up, those experienced ones amongst them can mentor the young and upcoming, startups. They can mentor them, giving them direction and guidance as to how to proceed on whatever they find to do. So, for example, somebody in the shea nut butter industry, or producing soap, to be able to give advice to someone who is now starting in an area of the same soap industry, to mentor her, to groom her, and even professionals who are well versed in that can also be part of the mentorship program to train them and to give advice and guidance as to what they should do so that they can also move on. So mentorship is important. Networking, moving around, learning, sharing information, sharing knowledge. What did I do that made me succeed here? They are very critical. It's very important. And then capacity build, education, creating awareness, sensitization, telling them of what is happening. It goes a long way to bring the women up and to empower them in doing their businesses. Okay.
What's the position of AFTA in all of this, empowering women to actually do well in SMEs?
In fact, you know that the AFTA, right from its preamble, it states that women are very important. It's indicated in its preamble that, and it goes to talk about it in its articles, stating. And now not only has AFTA done this in the preamble and in the articles provided, but has gone on to create the protocol, which was adopted last year, somewhere last year. But unfortunately, we haven't done much on making it known. We are now going to publicize that one. It was adopted just last year, but there's a need for us to publicize it, educate the women on what is in the protocol for them. So I think AFTA is doing a lot, if only the women are aware of it. And that brings in the trade and gender to educate the women on these protocols and even on the articles. But the protocol is the main thing which has been adopted. And we are now setting up this year, 2025, as part of the plan of the Trade and Gender Committee.
Okay.
We will be doing sensitization on the protocol. That provides a lot of initiatives for the women.
Dodi,
Yes.
I left you out of it. We were having women talk. But in terms of opening new doors for women to open more businesses in areas of, let's say, agriculture, manufacturing, and all of that, as far as AFTA is concerned, what will be your take?
Well, so I want to add a few things to what Madam Na said. Then I come to your question as to women, AFCFTA, and manufacturing. And maybe what I'll say would even cover some of that.
Okay.
So there was a study that was sponsored by GIZ when it comes to Ghana's SME preparedness to participate in the AFCFTA. One of the findings was that a lot of Ghanaian businesses operated in sectors or did manufactured products which were easily copyable. Easily copyable. And that, for me, stood out very, very significantly. So whilst we're very glad with the level of improvement and sophistication of our SMEs and the products they make, especially those who make products of with indigenous inputs, we've noticed a lot of SMEs in sectors that are producing easily copyable products. So if we take cosmetics, for example, if we take processed food, if it's gari, if it's kokonte powder, almost similar. So it doesn't create a long-term competitive advantage for a business if your product can easily be viewed by somebody's eye and the person can create the same thing the next day. So I wanted to suggest and add that as SMEs, there's a need for consideration, as we develop products, to be more, to increase innovation, to do more research, increase innovation, and create products that can give us some long-term, competitiveness. So not to mention any product, but recently some people have started doing gari products that can be stored longer, that has other additions, compared to having, let's say, pre-packed gari. It's a further step, and it may not be easily copyable. Even things like branding, not just in what the label says, but in the taste and feel of the product, that gives you a long-term advantage. It can really help you as an SME. Then thirdly, when it comes to SMEs participation in international trade, it needs to be brought to people's mind that you can participate in international trade either directly or indirectly. And many a times, the temptation is to want to participate directly. So, for example, Madam Nadine mentioned the fact that people can consolidate, they can bring products together and export. Many people, in my experience as a dean of the Africa Trade Academy, would like to make the product and export it themselves. But you can, that sometimes can be quite demanding in terms of cost of your operations, cost of freight, waiting to be paid. It can really, have a toll on your business. However, if you can identify a supplier, a buyer, who sometimes you can participate in their value chain. So in the cosmetics industry, for example, we have companies that, for example, buy share product inputs to make their final products and then export. It is much more possible for you to begin your export journey by participating in such value chains, which is something Madam alluded to. Then yes, capacity building. One thing I would say is that trade is not for the faint-hearted. Being involved in international trade is not for the faint-hearted.
Definitely.
It involves a series of specialist skills, even beyond making the product. So you can be very good in making your product, but the logistics of it, the dealing with documentation, customs procedures, dealing with financial institutions, dealing with, for example, one clear distinction between doing business domestically and being involved in international trade is marketing internationally. So you may be good. You may do an advert that everybody in Ghana will laugh at, but the same advert, promoting your product in just your next door neighbor will not, create a crack, So those are some of the things that businesses and SMEs will still need to build their capacity in, engage and participate. There are several institutions. Ghana, I'll be happy to mention that Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Shippers Authority, the Ministry of Trade, of course, Africa Trade Academy. These are institutions that exist in Ghana to support business to be competitive, to be able to engage in international business successfully. So, in terms of manufacturing, what I need to clarify is that trade agreements principally create market opportunities.
Okay.
They don't, by themselves, create manufacturing businesses.
Okay.
So business people need to take each agreement Ghana has signed on to, and since we're talking about SMEs, we're talking about trade facilitation, cross-border trade, and a host of them, I would take opportunity to mention some of them. For example, Ghana has a trade agreement with the UK called the Ghana-UK Trade Partnership.
Okay.
It is an opportunity for Ghanaian businesses to export certain products duty-free, quota-free to the UK. At the same time, Ghanaian businesses can buy certain raw material inputs from the UK to manufacture their products.
Okay.
At the same time, it creates an opportunity for UK businesses to invest in Ghana. So if you're a Ghanaian SME listening to us, there's an opportunity for you to explore a potential business partnership with a UK partner to say, okay, because of this agreement, you can come and establish here, and maybe, you have the opportunity to export at a lower duty back into the UK.
Okay.
Similarly, we have the same agreement with the EU, which is also, provides access for Ghanaian products. So it is not, the EU is one of the largest market, about $4 trillion or so dollars market opportunity. And the reason why they are stringent, apart from the safety concerns, is because it's a large market. Anytime a country has a large market, like China or the UK, or the US, you use your market power to create market conditions.
Okay.
So once you can meet EU sanitary and phytosanitary measures and other requirements, you should be able to access the EU market with your products.
Okay.
And similarly, like I mentioned, you can get an EU investor. The AFCFTA, big opportunity, 54 African countries, market access for products unique to Ghana. Now, again, it depends on how people want to explore, how people want to take advantage of it. But I would want to recommend a strategic view. You see, a strategic view is taking several steps to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
And one of the strategic objectives to say which markets in Africa outside of ECOWAS are growing, are doing well, and which of them would I want to target. If you take 4 or 5 or even 3 or 2, you can go in there and access the market opportunity for your product. Look at the market access conditions. What are the customs regulations? What are the standards authorities or food and drugs authorities do they require? Try to understand it. So you make time to invest in some research. And then once you can have that information in front of you with both, hard facts plus sentiments, you can say, okay, I want to choose this market and choose this product to try. And then, of course, you learn and see a better experience. What people do in our experience is that once they hear of the opportunity, without a lot of background work, they just pick a product, they want to go. And then when they meet a roadblock, they're like, no, the agreements are not working. The agreements work, but you need to pay attention to certain things. So manufacturing is certainly one of the biggest sectors that is going to have opportunities under the AFCFTA, because the AFCFTA has created opportunity for made in Africa products. And here we are looking at 2 angles: products solely or wholly made from Ghana or from one African country, or products made from inputs and parts from other parts of Africa. So if I can give you an illustration, you see for the automotive businesses who are setting up operations in South Africa, Rwanda, Nigeria, and Ghana, the idea is to be able to pick, people say over 200 parts or 400 parts that go into a vehicle, a single vehicle. Bolt and nuts. There's a Ghanaian business that makes bolts and nuts.
Yep.
All they can do to be able to take advantage of the AFCFTA is just to do world-class bolts and nuts. These boys who go around collecting scrap can collect the scrap for them. They will do it to standard, GSA standard, and of course global automotive manufacturer standards, and they can do that. We have, the water tank in a car. We have the wipers. We have carpets, for example. There's a country called Lesotho. Lesotho in Southern Africa, one of their strongest advantages in auto is that they are very good with leather seats. So they make leather seats for the automotive industry in Southern Africa. These are the strategic things we need to start thinking about, policy-wise and business-wise, so that we can take advantage of market opportunities. Otherwise, the agreements will be signed, pictures will be taken, we'll all celebrate here, but we'll not be able to take advantage of it.
If you just joined us, this is Iron Port, and it is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. It's time to hear from our partners, but when we return from that break, we'll be looking at how regional corporations and collaborations can be strengthened to support SMEs and women in trade. We'll also look at what mechanisms are there and what the role of financial institutions are in support of SMEs in all of this. Remember, you can also share your comments on the discussion on our WhatsApp line 0538 037353. We'll be back after this break.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP will feel ya, huh? Will be feel. Goil, good energy. Ja, yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back to Iron Pot. Iron Pot is powered by GPHA. Remember, you can also contribute by calling the phone line 0245834980. I've already mentioned the WhatsApp line for you. It's 0538037353. Let me immediately read some few comments that are coming in. This is coming from Ohima from Tema. She says, "Good evening, Iron Pot. Very insightful discussion. I commend the efforts of your guests for their massive contributions and advocacy for the cross-border trade and international trade in general. And special greetings to you, Antina Denso and Reverend Dodisedu." It's coming from Ohima from Tema. And this one is from Petra Accra. Petra says, "I'm loving this discussion, Iron Pot. It's interesting to think about how societal norms impact women in trade. Are there examples of initiatives that have successfully addressed these barriers?" And I'll be putting that question to one of you very soon. And he says, I've been watching Iron Pot for some time now. The role of informal traders seems to be a recurring theme. What realistic steps can be taken to formalize and support their contributions? And on that note, I want to ask you now, are there best practices from other countries that West Africa, Ghana can learn from in terms of supporting SMEs in cross-border trade?
NTFC has established what we call the trade agenda, for the sole aim of assisting cross-border traders, cross-border women traders. And its main objective is to promote and mainstream gender into all policies, trade policies, to ensure that trade policies do not come out as gender neutral, but they are gender sensitive. So policies from any of the organizations in trade.
Okay.
Now, it encourages continued dialogue and gender accountability, and it works in such a way that, for example, if you're an organization, you are coming out with a policy, a trade policy, you should consider gender, women, how your policy will affect women and how it can empower women. What the Trade and Gender Committee has as terms of reference, one of them is to find gender champions within the ecosystem, the trade ecosystem, identify non-tariff barriers that impede the work of the women. Also, find out the percentage of women who are involved in cross-border trade and also the percentage of them that are formalized. So with this kind of information or data, you can work very well with women and find out exactly what is the gap and how we can find solutions. The Trade and Gender Committee also is charged with ensuring that women are promoted to a level that is appreciable, that their work output will be recognized. And they are also supposed to come out with recommendations that will help the women. So what the Trade and Gender Committee has been doing is, first of all, we know that you have to train the women, not only just the women, but also the NTFC members who are from organizations that are normally border agencies. Mm-hmm. They are members of the NTFC. Let them understand that women and gender policies, or policies that they are coming out with, should be gender sensitive. So the Trade and Gender Committee has a mandate to ensure that NTFC members are all well trained on gender issues. By so doing, they will understand when they are coming out with policies that affect women or that affect their trade. We went around the whole of the region, of the regions in Ghana, training women, in fact, first of all, bringing to their attention what the AFTA brings, and telling them or showing them the opportunities there are in. We've also tried a number of times with the help of development partners, the GIZ, the USA, and even more recently, the trademark, educating these women on what is expected of them, their rights, their privileges, and then the benefits that accrue to them. We do this by engaging them on a regular basis. And we believe that as we continue, it's supposed to be quarterly, to engage these women SMEs and to bring to the fore what is expected of them and what the opportunities are. The Trade and Gender Committee is one best practice. It's been going on since 2022, and I must say that it's the first to start in the whole region, in the ECOWAS region, and it has been recognized by the United Nations Trade and Development, UNCTAD, as a best practice, and it's encouraging all internationally to take on that best practice. So for now, the best practice is actually from Ghana, and is being repeated in other countries. ECOWAS has now set up a gender committee under its regional NTFC to bring to the attention of women in the region some of the things that are for them, or I should say belongs to them. So for a best practice, this is one thing that Ghana is doing, and we think that it is very good. I can mention a lot of programs that we have done in the past since 2022, both on the international scene and on the national scene, that help the women. And it's all under, the Ministry of Trade that is ensuring. So when we are talking about best practice, this Trade and Gender Committee is one of those best practices that is inuring to the benefits of our traders and SMEs in particular.
Mr. Dodi, let's look at the financial institutions, NGOs, international organizations in providing, tailored support. For example, microfinance, capacity building programs, access to international markets to these SMEs.
Well, thank you. So, like I said, the trade agreements exist. The market opportunity has been created. What has been the challenge has been the ability of some of the businesses to be able to actually take advantage of these opportunities. One of the clear things that is a challenge and for which financial institutions, NGOs can support has been in the area of product development. So, like I mentioned, the products are quite similar, but even what is similar so far, we've seen a lot of support from donors to SMEs to develop. Now, if you're a financial institution and an SME approaches you and you are providing them finance, you should be able to think through with them to see if they need financing at a good rate and also at a relatively longer term. Because things like product development are like R&D, research and development in a business, and it comes with cost. So being able to find products will come at a cost for which you need, some type of financing that could be much more relaxed and much more longer. The second one is in the area of market development. So yes, I have a product, but the product is, would likely be sold in, let's say, some 10 to 15 African countries. but I need to spend money to do market research. I need to spend money to do market reconnaissance. I need to spend money to, engage and understand how the market works, and that is a cost. So business can do that. The third area, in line with product development and market, access, is in product certification. For products to be able to access international markets, they need to meet international standards, both national standards and international standards. And meeting standards comes at a cost to businesses. The cost is actually in two ways. One is the cost of, developing systems, factory layout, equipment to meet the standard. Okay? So if I'm to make this bottle of water and it needs to reach 95% of it, it cannot be done by hand. I can't do a certain volume by hand. I need to have automated systems. So automating systems, when it comes to most of the products that we tend to export, we need to establish traceability systems, for example. So those are things that come with cost that businesses may have to incur. So if you want to take traceability, for example, you need to maybe have a lot of extension officers or field officers who collect data for you to show to the buyer, the consumer, where the product is coming from. So meeting standards is a cost that institutions can help. The other area is also in the managerial know-how, capacity. And, there's something about SME growth. When you come to Africa Trade, we teach that. We teach something about the steps of growth. Okay. And one of the steps of growth, or the steps of a business growth from, establishment or existing to becoming a success, the owners of the business need to evolve. They need to grow in mindset. They need to grow in capabilities and capacity. And so if you look at many international businesses, especially in the West, at a point in the business growth, the founder steps aside. The founder, kind of like allows, if not at the level of CEO, but at certain operational levels, people who have certain know-how. And unfortunately, for our businesses, usually when we are growing, we still want to hold grip to it. We don't want to allow new ideas, people with the wherewithal to help us to grow. So sometimes you see donor interventions or project interventions. You mentioned mentoring and coaching. Some SMEs don't like that. For them, the biggest need is money. Bring money and my business will grow. Okay. It is true. But money alone cannot grow the business. You need the managerial know-how, you need a technical know-how. Expertise. Exactly. Because, like I said, if, for example, I'm very good at making soap, that is my expertise. Yeah. Yes, I've been able to establish a soap-making business. But for me to make soap that can compete and be bought by 2 million people a day, it takes more than making soap.
It takes more than making soap. And then our final comment, Petra, we are running out of time. I'm afraid we can't answer this question, but I think it's already been addressed. He says, hi, okay, so he says you've touched on this already, but I want to know specifically, practically from tomorrow, how can regional governments better harmonize trade policies to reduce delays and inconsistencies across borders? Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Nadine Sua Aite is the chairperson, Trade and Gender Subcommittee of the National Trade Facilitation Committee and Vice President, Maritime Chapter of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Ghana. Dodi Sedu is the CEO of Africa Trade Academy. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching. The show was brought to you by Ghana Revenue Authority, GOL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance, and is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.